This just-released footage of El Chapo shows the drug lord looking teary-eyed and in shock after he was flown to New York. He now...
Intro. This just-released footage of El Chapo shows the drug lord looking teary-eyed and in shock after he was flown to New York. He now faces a life sentence at Supermax prison in Colorado, known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Deep within the highest security prisons lies a world of isolation and control that pushes the limits of human endurance. This isn't a prison that the inmates run. We run this prison. In these extreme environments, inmates face conditions designed to strip away any semblance of freedom or comfort. Complete isolation, restricted movement, and constant surveillance create a relentless atmosphere of confinement. Let's step inside ADX Supermax and see the hellish conditions of detention. How did ADX Supermax come to ADX Supermax be? ADX Supermax, officially known as the United States Penitentiary Administrative Maximum Facility, was built in Florence, Colorado. This prison is one of, if not the most secure facility in the world, designed to house the most dangerous inmates in the world. But that level of security brings with it some hellish conditions of detention that some say are ever worse than the death penalty. So, why is that? The idea for ADX Supermax emerged after a tragic event at Marion Federal Prison in Illinois on October 22, 1983. Mar and is psychological and physical torture most men can't handle. Close T2 correctional officers were murdered by inmates, highlighting the need for a facility that could manage high-risk offenders more effectively. In response to that, the federal government decided to create a new type of prison that would focus on containment and security. Marion, which had been considered one of the toughest prisons at the time, transitioned into an all-lockdown facility. This meant that inmates were kept in their cells for nearly all hours of the day, a model that would inform the design of future Supermax facilities. Following the changes at and other prisons began to adopt similar security measures. Pelican Bay State Prison in California became one of the first to implement these practices, and the success of these lockdown methods led to the development of ADX Supermax. Construction of ADX Supermax began in 1991, and the facility officially opened in 1994. The prison was built with a budget of approximately $60 million. It sits on 37 acres in the Colorado desert, surrounded by mountains and a remote landscape that adds to its isolation. The design of ADX emphasizes security. The prison has a series of high walls, surveillance cameras, and advanced security systems. The layout includes a central hub that connects various housing units, allowing for strict monitoring of all activities. The facility can hold up to almost 500 inmates, with the architecture ensuring that each inmate remains under constant observation. ADX Supermax is known far and wide for its extreme security measures. Inmates are housed in individual cells. Each cell is equipped with a solid steel door, a concrete bed, a sink, and a toilet. They spend a whopping 23 hours a day on average in their cells. These conditions are designed to prevent violence and maintain control over the inmate population, even at the expense of their sanity. The facility also employs high-tech surveillance systems. Every movement of inmates is monitored by cameras, and staff can control various security features remotely. This ensures that any potential threats can be identified and managed in the blink of an eye. Running ADX Supermax involves significant operational costs. The annual budget for the prison is estimated to be around $75 million, which is more than its building budget. This covers staffing, maintenance, food, and security measures. The facility requires a highly trained staff with correctional officers receiving specialized training to deal with the unique challenges presented by high-risk inmates. Staffing levels are crucial for maintaining security. ADX has a high officer-to-inmate ratio with roughly 200 employees for the 500-ish inmates. This ensures that there are enough officers to supervise the facility and respond quickly to any incidents. The types of inmates housed at ADX are among the most notorious in the United States. This includes individuals convicted of terrorism, organized crime, and violent offenses. The ones like the Boston Marathon bomber Jocket SV and drug lord Hacking El Chapo Guzman. One of the main reasons ADX Florence is so secure is its architectural design. The prison is built to withstand escape attempts. It features thick concrete walls, reinforced steel doors, and a layout that limits the movement of inmates. The design focuses on containment, ensuring that any attempts to breach security are quickly contained. The facility is surrounded by a high security fence topped with razor wire. This prevents inmates from climbing over or cutting through the barriers. The entire prison is situated in a desert, further reducing the chances of escape. If an inmate somehow got out, they would be far from urban areas where help could be found. The facility is equipped with state-of-the-art cameras that monitor every inch of the prison. These cameras are placed both inside and outside, providing a constant view of inmate activity. Staff members can watch multiple screens at once, ensuring that they can react quickly to any unusual behavior. Additionally, there are motion detectors and alarm systems throughout the prison. If someone tries to tamper with any part of the facility, alarms will sound and staff will be alerted immediately. This layered approach to security makes it extremely difficult for inmates to plan and execute an escape. ADX Supermax has set a standard for the management of high-risk offenders in the United States. Its creation led to the establishment of other Supermax facilities across the country where similar security measures are implemented. The model of solitary confinement and lockdown has sparked debates about the psychological effects on inmates, as prolonged isolation can have serious consequences for mental health. Prison units. ADX Supermax is designed to house the most dangerous inmates, and it must run without a flaw. A peek inside provides all the information needed to see why the inmates there see it as worse than the death penalty. When the Supermax job came up, you were excited about taking it. Why? Well, in our system there's 114 prisons, and there's only one Supermax. It's like the Harvard of the system. It features various specialized units to manage criminals based on their security needs and behavior. Each unit has distinct characteristics, inmate conditions, and levels of supervision. The control unit is one of the most secure areas within ADX. This unit is reserved for inmates who are considered high risk due to their violent behavior or escape attempt. Cells in the control unit are smaller and designed for maximum security. This is the part where inmates are kept in solitary confinement for up to 23 hours a day with limited interaction with staff or other inmates. This isolation aims to prevent any potential threats and maintain order. Inmates in this unit have minimal privileges and their movements are highly restricted. The special housing unit Often referred to as the shoe, is designed to manage inmates who pose serious security risks. This unit houses individuals who have committed disciplinary violations or who need extra supervision. The shoe cells are similar to those in the control unit, featuring solid steel doors and limited furnishings. They also spent most of the time in their cells with only 1 hour per day for exercise in an enclosed area. The conditions in the shoe are strict, with limited access to programs or services. Some would think that it is as secure as it could be, but within the special housing unit there is a place with hellish conditions of detention. Even compared to itself, Range 13 is an ultra-secure and isolated section that consists of 4 cells. The security measures here are even more stringent than in other areas. Inmates in Range 13 experience extreme isolation, and their movements are monitored closely. They have severely limited contact with staff and no access to communal activities. The special security unit, known as the H unit, is specifically designated for inmates linked to terrorism, music. This includes individuals convicted of acts of terrorism or those who are deemed a threat to national security. Conditions in the H unit are similar to those in the shoe, with inmates in solitary confinement for most of the day. The security protocols are heightened to prevent any potential communication with outside groups. Inmates in this unit face strict limitations on their privileges and interactions. It is important to note the slight distinctions between the specialized units, as each has specialized monitoring and different kinds of staff overlooking the high-risk prisoners. ADX Supermax also has general population units which include Delta, Echo, Fox, and Golf units. These units house inmates who are considered lower risks compared to those in the specialized units, while still under strict security measures. Inmates in these units have more privileges, such as access to educational programs and recreational activities. Cells in the general population units are designed for 2 inmates, allowing for some social interaction. However, movement within these units is still controlled, as is the program they are receiving. The intermediate unit, also known as the transitional units, includes the Joker unit and Kilo unit. These units are part of the step-down program, which provides inmates with a pathway to earn their way out of ADX. Inmates in these units have demonstrated good behavior and compliance with prison rules. The step-down program is designed to help inmates transition back to a less restrictive environment. They have more privileges than those in higher security units, including group activities and increased access to programs in the transitional units. Inmates spend more time outside their cells and participate in educational and therapeutic programs. This exposure is aimed at helping them develop skills that can assist in their eventual reintegration into society. The cells in these units are still secure but allow for more human interaction. Day at ADX Supermax. If you day at ADX Supermax still don't think that life at ADX Florence is worse than the death penalty, take a closer look at what a day there looks like. When you get to the prison, you don't even get a chance to check it from the outside, as you would have a bag over your head, much like these inmates do. To the high level of security, certain protocols are strictly followed to ensure safety for both inmates and staff. The use of handcuffs and black bags or hoods serves specific purposes. In a high-security environment like ADX Supermax, inmates here are often violent or have a history of aggression, using Restraints helps prevent any potential attack on staff during movement or processing. It ensures that inmates cannot harm themselves or others. The black bags serve to obscure the inmates' vision and reduce awareness of their surroundings. This measure is crucial during transport or when moving between different areas of the facility. It helps prevent any escape attempts or disturbances by disorienting the inmate. When inmates are processed for transfers, hearings or other active activities, using restraints and hoods is standard procedure. It allows correctional officers to maintain control over the situation, especially in a facility where security is a top priority. Inmates start their day early, often around 6 o'clock. The sound of metal doors clanging and guards moving through the halls signals the beginning of the morning for most inmates. Breakfast is served shortly after waking. Meals are delivered through small openings in the solid steel doors of their cells. Inmates at ADX Supermax in Florence, Colorado, receive 3 meals a day, but the food is basic and designed primarily for nutrition and cost-effectiveness. Breakfast usually consists of simple, prepackaged items. Common options include plain cereal or oatmeal served with milk or water. It can include toast or bagels, sometimes accompanied by butter or jelly. Inmates may receive a piece of fruit, like an apple or banana. Lunch is not much different, but dinner is typically a bit heartier and could be pasta with sauce, rice and beans, or a meat dish like chicken or beef. But bear in mind, there are no exclusive chefs. These meals are served just so the inmates don't die. They are bland beyond belief. The meals are designed to meet basic nutritional needs and enough calories to sustain inmates. Inmates with specific dietary needs, such as religious restrictions or medical conditions, may have access to alternative meal options. These requests are handled on a case-by-case basis, and accommodations are made when possible. Meals are served in a controlled manner. Inmates are locked in their cells during meal delivery. The food is often prepackaged to ensure safety and minimize the risk of disturbance. This process reflects the high security nature of ADX Supermax, where maintaining order and safety is paramount. Those in the general population units may have slightly more variety, but the food is still basic and unseasoned after breakfast. Inmates in the general population units have the opportunity to participate in various programs such as educational classes or recreational activities. This time can also include group meetings for therapy or counseling, which helps some inmates work through their issues in a structured environment. In contrast, inmates in more secure units, like the control unit or SHU, spend their time in isolation. For them, the morning may include brief interaction with guards during checks, but they remain confined to their cells. They have limited access to programs and are permitted only 1 hour of exercise each day in a small, enclosed area. However, these inmates do not interact with others during this time, as safety protocols restrict their movement. As the day progresses, inmates in the general population units engage in more structured activities. They have access to libraries, classrooms, or workshops depending on the programs available at the time. Educational opportunities can include GED preparation or vocational training aimed at helping inmates acquire skills that could benefit them upon release. Inmates in the special units do not enjoy these privileges. Their daily routine involves being alone in their cells for extended periods. Lunch is typically served around noon, and after lunch, inmates in the general population may have time to socialize or participate in recreational activities such as watching television or playing games in designated areas for inmates. In the more restrictive units, the day keeps getting worse as the confinement gets to you more as the day progresses, which is why it may be worse than the death penalty. To some, they may spend some time reading or writing, but that is also limited. Inmates often use this time for self-reflection or to maintain their mental health under challenging conditions. As the day winds down, inmates receive dinner usually around 5 o'clock. General inmates have a little more time to unwind and engage with others. After their evening meal by 9, inmates are confined to their cells for the night. The lights in the units dim, signaling the end of the day. The majority of inmates might spend this time chatting quietly, but for those in the shoe and control unit, nighttime is very isolating. They have no contact with others, no light, and the silence of their surroundings can be mental health issues. Overwhelming mental issues and a civil lawsuit as the abysmal and inhumane environment creeps to the inmates. Each day is worse than the previous one, with many not having the slightest idea about the current date or even the current year. In some cases, inside ADX Supermax, hellish conditions of detention get to you mentally more than physically. It ends up being worse than the death penalty. In recent years, various inmates and their families have brought attention to the harsh realities faced by those incarcerated. They're one of the most notable voices speaking out against the conditions at ADX Supermax is Eric Rudolph, the man behind the 1996 Olympic Park bombing. In 2006, he wrote a series of letters to the Gazette of Colorado Springs describing life inside the prison. Rudolph said that the facility is meant to inflict misery and pain. He explained that it creates a closed-off world that isolates inmates. Rudolph went on to highlight the negative impact this isolation can have on mental health. He claimed that the conditions in ADX are designed to cause mental illness and chronic physical conditions such as diabetes and heart disease. Throughout ADX history, inmates have engaged in hunger strikes to protest their treatment. This is especially true among foreign terrorists who have used hunger strikes as a means to draw attention to their grievances. By 2007, over 900 incidents of forced feeding had been documented at the facility. Inmates who go on hunger strikes often face severe consequences, including being forcibly fed against their will. In 2012, the family of Jose Martin Vega took a significant step by filing a lawsuit against the U.S. government. They claimed that Vega committed suicide while incarcerated at ADX because he was denied necessary treatment for his mental illness. This case highlighted the urgent need for proper mental health care within the prison system. The lack of treatment can lead to tragic outcomes, as seen in Vega's case. Shortly after, on June 18, 2012, a class action lawsuit known as Body vs. Federal Bureau of Prisons was filed. 11 inmates joined forces to challenge the treatment of mentally ill prisoners at ADX. They argued that the Federal Bureau of Prisons was failing to provide adequate mental health care, resulting in severe harm to inmates' psychological well-being. This lawsuit aimed to represent all mentally ill prisoners at the facility, shining a light on systemic issues within the prison's mental health services. Conditions at ADX Supermax have led some inmates to engage in self-harm. Reports indicate that inmates often hurt themselves using whatever objects they can find, and when lacking sharp items, they would even use chicken bones. This behavior is a desperate attempt to cope with their mental anguish and the extreme isolation they Experience additionally many inmates display erratic behavior including screaming and ranting for hours. Some are observed having conversations with themselves or reacting to voices that are not their. Suicide attempts are also tragically common in this setting. The lack of access to mental health care, coupled with the oppressive isolation, creates a perfect storm for individuals already struggling with their mental health. The consequences can be devastating, as some attempts have resulted in successful suicides. The isolation experienced by inmates at ADX Supermax can have profound effects on their mental health. The prison structure is designed to limit social interactions and sensory input, which can lead to feelings of despair and hopelessness. Many inmates report experiencing anxiety, depression, and even psychosis due to the extreme conditions in this environment. Inmates lose touch with reality. The lack of stimulation and human connection leads to deteriorating mental states. It raises questions about the ethical implications of such harsh treatment, especially for those with pre-existing mental health conditions. And let's not forget those black bags that are put on their heads. The lawsuits and reports from inmates have sparked discussions about the treatment of mentally ill individuals in prisons. Advocates argue that the system needs to do more to provide adequate mental health care to inmates, particularly those in Supermax facilities. Many believe that these individuals should receive therapy, medication, and regular checkups to ensure their mental well-being. Furthermore, the legal actions taken by families and inmates themselves have brought attention to the need for reform in the prison system. Even if ADX Supermax succumbs to some kind of reform that would aid inmates mentally and provide them with more time with others, it comes with huge caveats. It is not that simple. Even if we ignore the potential for violence or inside jobs that could lead to breaking out here, a significant number of inmates are held under what are known as special administrative measures, or SAM. These measures are designed to restrict activities and communications of inmates deemed a threat to national security or public safety. Understanding SAM helps shed light on why things are like they are. A specific restrictions placed on inmates to prevent them from sharing sensitive information that could potentially endanger national security or incite violence. These measures were first introduced in 2001 following the September 11th acts as part of a broader effort to enhance security in the federal prison system. Under SAM, inmates are subjected to strict limitations on their communications, both with the outside world and with other inmates. These measures are applied to individuals considered high risk, such as those convicted of terrorism-related offenses or violent crimes. The goal is to prevent any possible coordination of activities that could lead to further acts of violence or terrorism. One of the primary aspects of SAM is the control of inmate communication. Inmates under these measures have their phone calls monitored and limited. They can only speak to approved individuals, and those conversations are recorded. This ensures that no sensitive information is shared that could compromise national security. Similarly, mail sent to and from SAM inmates is heavily scrutinized. Any correspondence is reviewed for content, and certain topics are completely prohibited. This means that inmates may not be able to share thoughts or plans that could be interpreted as inciting violence or terrorism. Obviously, inmates under SAM are kept isolated from the general population. This separation is meant to minimize any potential influence they might have on other inmates by limiting Their interactions authorities aim to prevent the spread of extremist ideologies or plans that could result in violent actions within the prison or beyond. This isolation can lead to a highly controlled and lonely existence for those affected by SAM, which can significantly impact their mental health. But is the mental health of one of the worst criminals in the world more important than national security? What prisons have worse conditions than this? Let us know in the comments.